All right, in the last two videos, somewhere up here, we went over how to make an 80s style weekend beat on the MPC Live 2. We went over some basic mixing tricks and tips on how to get all the sounds to work well together. And in this video, we're gonna go through arrangement. Now, if you wanna grab this drum program so you can follow along with sequencing out the beat, click on the link below down to the Patreon page where the Patreons will be able to grab this drum program and all future drum programs and presets for all the upcoming tutorials. And on that note, let's jump in. All right, so in the last video, we made this. So now we're going to go on and start arranging this out. We're going to go through and use one of my favorite ways of arranging on an MPC, which I like to call subtractive sequencing. Essentially what we're doing is we've already made the busiest part of the song, the chorus. We're going to go ahead and duplicate this sequence all the way maybe 12 or 16. It's kind of up to you on that. And then we're going to go through each one, and since each sequence contains its own different parameter sets, what we're going to do is just simply go in and start muting the elements we don't want in that part of the song and renaming it, and you'll see it's a really, really easy way to start sequencing and get a song layout here on the MPC. So let's jump into the main. We're going to come up here to the pencil, and we're going to go copy sequence. And you could go ahead and rename these, but we're going to actually do that while we're going through and adjusting each one of these segments. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit do it, copy sequence, go to 3, do it, just really quickly go through all of these. So now when we go into next sequence, we're going to see that we have just duplicated the chorus over 13 different sections. And now we can go into each one and just really quickly start muting the sections that we don't want on there to really quickly build an actual sequence for this song. So we're just going to start off in the lower left corner right here, go back into main. I'm going to say this is going to be our intro. And within this intro, I'm going to come to mute. And I don't want most of this stuff in here. I don't want the bass. I really just want this guitar chug. Setting the mood and building some tension. Now that's a great little 4-bar intro. Then moving on to the next sequence. Let's just call this one here. Let's call this verse 1A. If I was giving this to a writer, the vocals would probably jump in right here. So a lot of times with each one of these, we just want to bring in 1, maybe 2 elements max, so it's not overwhelming the listener until maybe we get to the chorus where everything just drops in all at once. So I'm just going to come in here, and again, on the mute, I have my guitar chug. I just want to bring in the snaps, so I'm going to mute everything else. And now we go into the first verse where essentially the vocal would come in. And then let's move right along. Let's come into the next part right here. Again, bringing in 1 or 2 elements. I say we just bring in the bass right there to add more groove to keep it pushing along. So again, I'm going to come into the main. I'm going to rename this verse 1B, come into my mute, and I want to keep my snaps. I don't want my drums yet, and I just want to bring in the bass. Now I'm thinking right here what we could have come in is some hi-hats to push it forward, and maybe what happens is right here in the drums we just have that 1 open hi-hat right before the 1 on the next section. So I'm going to just pop in the drums. I'm going to go to my main real quick right here, and really quickly I'm just going to start cutting things out. I don't want that. Now this one, I don't want it as well. I don't want that one. Don't want that. Now we could do it another way. If you want, you could zoom out. And this is all we're looking for is that guy right there. So we could come here, just select all that, cut it out, zoom in a little bit here. All that, shift and cut. And now we just have and that's going to open it up for when we go into our next section right here, which we have named verse 1C hats, because we're going to bring in those rapid hi-hats just to add more groove to it. Now, let's go through and just start deleting some stuff. We're going to want to delete this guy. Again, that guy. Let's cut that out. Let's cut that out. Let's cut that out. We want to cut that out. And then we can zoom out because this is the only thing that we want. Start highlighting a large portion here. We don't want any of that. We essentially just want this, that, and that guy going on there. So we can come down, select that as well, cut that out, and then that little guy right here, boom, cut. So maybe we're just going to keep building tension after this point, not even bringing in the kick until the chorus hits. Maybe we'll do one more section of the verse, adding a shaker to push it along even more, cutting everything out for a 4-bar pre-chorus, and then the chorus dropping in with everything all in there. So let's go back to our next sequence. We can see we're right here. So we have 4 bars, 8 bars, 12 bars. We're going to add this little extra 16 right here. And so let's go into this sequence. Let's go to the main. We'll call this verse 1D, and maybe put shake. Add shakers, do it. Again, let's go into our mute menu. We don't have the toms, we don't have the ARPs. We'll bring the ARPs in on the pre-chorus. And then we're going to go make sure we're in our drums and then just take out the drum elements that we don't want. So let's come back into main, we're in our drums. Let's come up here. Again, this kick, this claps, we want all these guys gone. We'll take those guys out. We want these. We don't want any of these perks, although we could have some of these perks coming in. Let's just pick, let's say we'll have that one come in. We'll cut out this guy, cut out this guy. We'll take those tambourines out and save those for the chorus. And now we have and let's take that guy out as well. So now, coming into the next sequence, we essentially have worked our way all the way up to the pre-chorus. The pre-chorus is probably where we're going to introduce the pads, and we're going to open up the filter of the pads, and we'll probably do the same thing with the ARP. Then when the chorus comes in, we'll take away the ARP, drop in most of the elements except for the chords number 2, and then on the second half of the chorus, we will then bring in everything all together. So now let's just take a quick listen to what we have so far. After that, we might add a little tom fill at the end of that going into the pre-chorus, but essentially let's move on to the pre-chorus. So we're gonna go into this guy. We're gonna call this the pre. And within this pre, we can have the chords introduced and that synth arp to give it a swell coming in, and we're gonna automate the filter cutoff of both of these guys so it opens up going into the main drop. So now listening to that, that is pretty quick as far as a pre-chorus, and we want to really add a lot of movement with those filters. So let's come into main right here, and on this pre, we're simply going to come in here and double the length of it. Now we have a full 8 bars to really open those guys up. So let's first go into our ARP right here, and if we hit menu, go into the program edit, we now can access the filter, which is right here, using our Q link to cycle through the different areas of the synth. We're gonna be adding some parameter automation to this. Really quick, easy way to do it. Just hit W right there. We're gonna just hit play start, crank this guy down, and then open it up over time. So as you can see, there's a little bit of a bleed over right there. There's a couple of ways we could fix that. We could simply do overdub and hit play and then grab it on the... Just by giving it a little bit of a wiggle, that will grab it right off the bat. So now you can see we grabbed it. It's gonna open up over time. And now let's do the exact same thing with the chords. So again, pressing and holding on main just to really quickly switch over to the chords. Now we're here in the chords. We can see that it's already fairly open. We're gonna change this back to W. Overdub just to give ourselves a little bit of a count in. Bring this guy all the way down. And I want it to be more open at the beginning, so we're gonna start it off at around 23. So since we have writing turned on, we don't need to undo that. We can just write right over it. And there we'd probably add a tom fill to go into the entire chorus. But the one thing that would be nice listening to this now is inside of these chords. Let's find these chords. Maybe cutting them off a little early right here. So there's a 1 bar break and we can add a little bit of a tom fill or something of that sort right here. So then let's go back to the ARP right here as well. Now we're in ARP synth. And let's find these notes. And the same thing. We're just going to add this cut right here. And this will allow us to have a nice little pause. We can go back and add a fill later on going into the chorus. So if we listen to this, all right, so then this would essentially be our chorus. Now that's everything coming in all together. Remember, because we just made the busiest part of the song, all the layers and put it in. Since we're bringing in the drums and some leads, let's basically break this chorus into two sections, have an A section of the chorus and a B section of the chorus. So first thing we're gonna do is rename this chorus, and we'll call it chorus 1. Listening to it, we're gonna wanna have more of a longer chorus on this, so we're gonna actually double it. Again, come into the pencil tool, double the length on here. Now going into this, I wanna mute some of the elements in here. I don't wanna hear these two guitar leads, and I don't wanna hear this chorus, because we're already bringing in a lot of stuff right away, and then these will come in the chorus number 2. So let's really quickly just jump over here, and now we're gonna rename this guy chorus number 2. And in here, we're gonna have everything all together come in. Again, maybe this is just a 4-bar push going into the second verse. So let's really quickly come into here, and at the end of this, it'd be nice to drop out some of the drums, drop out the bass. Again, we could come back and add a little bit of a fill later on. So the first thing I wanna do is I wanna come into the drums, and I'm gonna come to the very end of these drums right here, and I'm gonna just delete most of this stuff right here just to cut it out of that, because I really want an open space here to give it a little breathing room to then bring in. I'm gonna leave the kicks, or the kick, on here just so it has an end point. And also we could come in and do the same thing we did with the bass. So here we're on the bass, and with the bass we just want to give it a little pause at the very end. Let's cut that guy out. Let's come into the ARP right here. Same thing with the ARP. We're gonna kill that last bar because we really want it just to give it some breathing room. Let's cut that note out too. Come into the chords. And with these chords, we're gonna do the same thing, cut out the last. You know what we could do is we could cut that out and then just take these guys, edit the end, and then just bring it so it's just a really quick little stab. And you know what? Let's also do that with the chug guitar as well. And we could leave in the up notes, but now let's give it a rest with these lower notes. So now let's have a listen from the pre into the chorus into the second half of the chorus. So then we just go through and finish sequencing out with a second verse, bringing the pre-chorus back, the chorus again, maybe doubling the second part of the chorus, and then into an outro. I hope that helped give you an idea of how you can really quickly just make the busiest part of the song, lay it out over all your sequences, and then just start muting, deleting things subtractively in order to build your song up to that most important moment. So before we hop off, let's go through and just listen to what we have so far from the intro up to the chorus. Now, a couple of things in the chorus when we listened back. The one thing I want to do inside of here is I don't want to bring these tambourines in until we actually come to the second part of the chorus, just to give it a little bit of push into that. And then also the snaps that are going on underneath all these, we're gonna have to really quickly come over here and just delete these last two guys out, cut those, and now let's have a listen. All right, I hope that video helped you take the beat and then flip it into more of a traditional song structure. I know when I was first getting started on the MPC workflow, the arrangement section was a little confusing for me, but now using this style of subtractive sequencing, I find that it's really fast and it's actually become my go-to for getting ideas down really quick. So on that note, if you like what you see, please like and subscribe so we can keep making these videos. We're gonna have more coming up with Ableton, Studio One. And if you have any suggestions for any future videos, please leave a comment below so we can take that in consideration and start getting things to you that you need and you want for your creative endeavors. On that note, thank you so much for the support. Peace.